All right, welcome everybody to the uh, number one seed if the playoffs started today edition of Under the Dome. I'm your host Alan Orick here with my partner Sean Williams. How you doing tonight, Sean?
Oh, doing great, man. First place. Now there is something I need you to. You stay on top of this far more than I do.
Okay.
I saw this little crawl at the bottom of the screen during the game Sunday night when they were going through and talking about the standings.
Mm-hmm.
And according to the new playoff format, they're adding another wild card, which means that the only way that you're going to have a first round bye is to be the number one seed this year.
Right.
So
that's exactly what happened.
Unlike years prior.
So what's? Go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Unlike years before now, where the number one and the number two seed got first round byes, only the number one seed is going to be able to have a first round bye this year. The number two seed will play a wild card.
That's exactly right, because they expanded the playoff format by one team. You now have to have the number two seed play the seventh seed. Okay, so only the number one seed can go and get the bye in the playoffs. That's why it's so critical that we keep this number one seed right now. Green Bay losing to Indianapolis helped tremendously. The Bucs losing to the Rams helped tremendously. So, you're looking at, if nothing else changes, if the Saints win the next three games and the Bucs lose next week to the Kansas City Chiefs, or Sunday to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Saints should lock up the division title after the
Atlanta
game. No, after the Eagles game, week 13.
But we have to win out from this point to that.
Well, we don't. Yeah, we have to win out from. We have to win these next three games.
Yeah, that was what I was saying.
Yes. If we go 4-2 over the next 6 games, we win the NFC South.
But we need to set our sights higher than division.
Exactly. We want to be that number one seed because that's the only team that gets the bye.
Yeah.
And that works for both conferences, of course. So right now, the Steelers have the number one seed in the AFC. The Chiefs are right behind them.
Yeah.
No, the Chiefs are right behind because the Chiefs only have one loss. And they almost had a second loss to the same team, the Raiders, Sunday night. That was a really good game. I don't know if
it really was. Yeah, I watched that. That was a really good game.
Yeah.
Had it been anybody but Patrick Mahomes, I don't think that they would have come back and won that.
Well, now it kind of makes that Raiders loss early in the season not look, because you are seeing a team that is getting progressively better with the Las Vegas Raiders.
I refuse to call them the Las Vegas Raiders. That's almost sacrilegious.
Yeah, Avery just mentioned they were talking about adding 2 more teams and no one having a bye. That's insane, because you realize that the number 4 seed will be whoever wins the dumpster fire that's the NFC East. So it is conceivable that if nothing else changes, if we start the playoffs today, which, I know everybody hates that term, but if we started the playoffs today, I think it's now the Rams, because they beat the Bucs head-to-head, would travel to Philadelphia to play the 3-6-1 Bucs. Eagles. And that's insane.
And that's your division leader at 3-6-1.
Yeah. And it's just...
It's amazing to me how far that team has fallen since winning the Super Bowl. It's almost incomprehensible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's a lot of it is some of it is Bill Belichick showing how to beat the Rams, but yeah, the Rams are number 2 seed. No, the
Yeah,
Packers should be
yeah.
number 2.
No, it's the Rams.
Oh, that's true because the Rams now a division leader, so it would be Seattle
Yeah,
traveling to Philadelphia, or it could be. I have to look again, but it could be the Bucs. But that's right. The Rams now are the division leaders. I'm sorry. I was thinking the Seattle was still a division leader, but I forgot the Rams are the division leader in that division. And Minnesota lost, which helps. So, yeah, the Rams have the tiebreak advantage over Green Bay. Here we go. I knew my son would have it.
yeah. Matt's always on top of that stuff.
Well, it
We
changes.
need to get Matt back on the show.
We do. It changes a lot too.
Yeah.
Obviously, with teams winning and losing, like I didn't even know until Monday afternoon whether or not the Vikings had won, and they didn't. Thank God the Cowboys won. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it was like, but it was a great weekend because all the teams we wanted to lose to help us lost.
And we won.
Yeah, and we won.
Yeah.
So okay.
Usually when everybody that we need to lose loses, so do we.
Right. So yeah, so at the way it stands right now, if this is a standing, if the season ended today, this is the standings. The Rams would play. Arizona would travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams. The play. And the Seahawks and the Eagles would play. Seahawks would have to travel to Philadelphia to go embarrass the Eagles. So yeah, that's a mess.
And more than likely, what's going to wind up happening is that we're going to wind up having to play Tampa again.
Oh,
I have that feeling.
I expect it, but I would love. See, this is what I would love to have happen. The Cowboys somehow win the NFC East. Okay,
it's possible. They're only a game behind.
Right, the Cowboys win the NFC East,
and so don't forget now the Cowboys they have Dalton back now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So don't be surprised if they kind of go on a run.
So the Bucs would have the 5th seed. Okay, they would have to travel to Dallas. In Dallas, and Dalton and that shitty ass team beats the Bucs in Dallas because that would be a double humiliation for Brady because you lost to a team that probably has a losing record, and it's the Cowboys. So it would be hilarious. It really would be.
This entire season has just been so bass backwards, upside down, sideways. And the closer we get to the championship game, it's going to get even weirder, I'm sure.
Well, here's the thing that's really promising for me as a Saints fan and for everybody else. You look at that defense Sunday, and I was at the game. You look at that defense on Sunday, and granted, it was the Falcons. Their offensive line is crap. We all know this. Watching that game, then you watched the Colts and the Packers, and you watched the Bucs and the Rams, and you watched I don't know if people got to see it or not, but you saw the Eagles game, and you see all these other games. All the other Seattle, all the other teams in the NFC don't have a defense. They really don't. The Bucs are the strongest defense of the playoff teams, okay? And we can handle that defense. We showed it. And he said it again last night. Not Al Michaels.
Collinsworth?
No, not Collinsworth. The guys on the Monday night game, the Monday night crew. Not
Tarico.
Brian Greasy. Not Brian Greasy. and not the other color analyst. It was Steve Levy. I was trying to run through all my ESPN classic anchors. Steve Levy was talking about how they like to play zone defense against these teams. And zone defenses, Breeze just destroys. He loves to play zone defense. So, it was amazing. Yeah, and 8 sacks on Sunday. So if the Bucs are going to play zone defense to try and keep everything in front of them and to take care of Kamara, Breeze is just going to pick them apart with throwing to 9 different and 10 different receivers, because we're all assuming that Breeze comes back, from his injuries. And by the way, everybody knows this now, but can you believe that Breeze played that game with 11 cracked ribs and a collapsed lung? And he tried to stretch it out, because he thought it was a tightness of the muscle, not the collapsed lung. I put it on Twitter. I said, man, and I said this last week too, I lose my breath or struggle with my breath bending over to tie my friggin' shoes. Here's a man with 11 cracked ribs, fractured ribs, a collapsed lung. He bends over, picks up a football, and then throws it for a touchdown pass. That's just amazing. So,
that's our leader. That's
exactly. So I mean, and you watch that shit show last night on Monday night. I mean, the Rams were so incompetent. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm like, this is a team that 2 years ago, two years ago, we had so much trouble with. They've just become this incompetent. Granted, they still have good receivers, but man, that play calling was crap.
Well, everybody is on to them.
Yeah.
They dominated 1 year, and even in the year that they went to the Super Bowl, you remember the first time that we played them that year down in New Orleans, we handed their ass to them. We almost blew them out of the stadium, and then we let them get back into it. But
Sean Payton explained how to handle that team, because he said you got to make noise from the time they get as soon as they set the ball, start the clock up for the next play, you start making that noise, because he needs to hear, so McVay can tell him what the defense is doing. Because he's like a robot out there. He's got to listen to what the defense is doing, because he can't read the defense. He's gotten better, obviously, to read the defense, but you saw those delay game penalties that were coming, and all the just the lousy play calling because they can't run the football. It's amazing how far that team has fallen, because Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl showed everybody this is how you stop this offense. You go to a 6-man defensive front, 1 linebacker, 5 defensive backs, and they won't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
Because he throws
zero coverage.
He throws before the sticks. It's all run after the catch. So as soon as he throws the ball, you sit there and wait for those receivers and get them right there. In the running game, your 6 defensive linemen can handle that running game and take away that running game, and Goff isn't going to be able to move to get out of the way. And, it just throws them off so much. Matt's saying Goff needs to be rattled. But we've learned that the same for Brady. Brady's a statue back there. You have to get in Brady's face. You have to rattle him. You have to get a lot of pressure on him. And what did we see on Sunday with the Saints? And what did we see 3 weeks ago against the Bucs? We saw the Saints with just 4 defensive linemen, which we've been waiting for forever. 4 defensive linemen, you're able to get pressure on quarterbacks and get to them. It's not just the sacks, but it's also hitting them. It's also making that quarterback speed that clock up, taking away the things they like to do on offense. So that's why, I'm looking at all these playoff teams down the road, and I'm assuming we're the number 1 seed. I like this year where we are, because there is no team that we're looking at, even with Seattle and getting, Jamal Adams back at safety. There's no team where I'm sitting there going, man, that's going to be a hell of a tough team to play. That defense would be really tough for our offense to handle. I don't see that this year. I really don't.
And conversely, it's awesome to me that our defense seems to finally have woken up, and they're playing at a really strong level at a point in time where they need to be hitting their stride.
What did I say, and what did we talk about? The beginning of the season, when I looked at the schedule, I said, in 2017 to 2019, we had these winning streaks, and that's what separated us from the rest of the division. That's where we got, where we needed to go. That's how we won the division. That's how we got in a position to be one of the top seeds in the playoffs. And I said, I'm looking at this schedule, and I don't know where that winning streak's going to come. I was assuming that Tampa was going to be a challenge, but I was also thinking that, the 49ers are going to be good because they were in the Super Bowl last year. I assume the Eagles would be better. I assume the Falcons might be a little bit better. But sure enough, and of course the Vikings are a challenge, and we have yet to play those guys. But I was wondering where this streak was coming from. Well, we're seeing it develop just like it did in 2017, just like it did in 2018. We're on this run. Offense is clicking. Defense is really dominating like it did for Bridgewater in those 5 games when Breeze was out. We're seeing that it looks like, this team didn't peak in 2018. This team didn't peak in 2019. It is still getting better. So it's going to be interesting. It really is, to see where this team ends up.
I'm glad that it's worked out. Well, I don't know if glad's probably the word to use, but I like the way that it's played out. We're starting to be able to get fans in the Superdome. And you got, let's see, let me double check that before I say it.
The governor announced that we're going back to phase 2.
Will that affect?
Yes, it will. We were scheduled to have 15,000 fans in the stadium for the Chiefs game, and I don't know what it's going to be now. I really don't know, but that's something that we're going to have to watch. Let's see where we are 3 weeks from now and what kind of decision the city's going to make. But
I do like that we got the Chiefs at home. I'm not saying that. I mean, obviously, what you saw with the Packers, the Saints are one of those teams that not having asses in the seats makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you could probably include Seattle in that, and Green Bay and Lambeau Field.
Absolutely.
I know to an extent it affects everyone, but
Kansas City's another one. Yeah. Any of these stadiums that get extremely loud, when since I was at the game, they had some Falcon fans talking smack, and especially in the first quarter when it was basically middle of the second quarter went to 9-3. But they're like some Falcon fan behind us is screaming, you ain't got to deal with the noise here. And I just said, so it's like a home game for you, isn't it? They were obnoxious. And the best part was by the third quarter, he's playing on his phone. He's not even watching the game anymore.
That's a long drive just to play on your cell phone.
It was. That's what I told my daughter. I said, you spend a lot of money to sit on your phone for 3 hours. In fact, I shared a video. I'll have to go move and put it in the group. But I shared a video. I got the Taysom first touchdown because we were in the end zone.
Yeah.
and that literally there was nobody in front of me. The 2 rows in front of us, no one could sit there, and then you're dealing with the covered seats. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sitting there, and this is when the first punt, when the punter is standing in the end zone, and the Falcons got the flag for false start, so they pushed him even further back. So he's almost to the end line. So I'm in my basketball gym voice when I'm telling the official the call he missed, kind of loud, deep ass voice. And I'm yelling at the Falcons punter, go ahead and take the safety. Save yourself the effort. Just take a step back and take the safety. I'm yelling this to him. And the second time they punted, he's in the end zone again. And I said, hey, number 4, because that's the number of the punter. I said, the safety offer still stands. Take the safety. I'm yelling. I know he's going, some assholes back there yelling at me, take a friggin' safety.
Well, I mean,
Falcon fans are delusional. Well, and it's funny. I think most of these guys were people from New Orleans. I don't think they traveled. I think it's, you got some people that just love the Falcons for whatever reason. The colors, I don't know what it is.
We'll keep them in our prayers, though.
Well, some people just like to follow losers. That's all I could say. I mean,
well, Cleveland still has fans.
Yeah, but Cleveland's had a history. There was a time before the Super Bowl started where Cleveland was like what the New England Patriots were for most of these past 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the era of Otto Graham and Jim Brown and
I think Otto Graham played for 11 years and played in the championship game all 11. 10 or 11.
10 straight years. He went to the championship game, both in the AAFC, sorry. That was the original conference. The Browns, the 49ers, and the first Baltimore Colts. That's a whole nother issue. But the Browns, 49ers, and Baltimore Colts came from the old AAFC, and they were absorbed into the NFL. And when Cleveland came into the NFL, they thought Jim Brown was so cocky and so arrogant, and the Browns had bragged going to 3 straight championships and something like that. The first game they scheduled for Burt Bell, the commissioner of the NFL, scheduled for the Cleveland Browns to play was defending champion Philadelphia Eagles, and that's the Eagles of
Van Brocklin.
Yeah, not Van Brocklin. Before him, Steve Van Buren.
Van Buren. Yeah.
Van Buren. Van Brocklin wasn't even at the Rams yet. Before he got to the Eagles in the 60s. So this is in the 40s, late 40s. And the Browns beat the crap out of them, and the coach, I think his name was Curly Neal for the Eagles, said, well, because the Browns, Paul Brown invented the draw play. He invented the the pass pocket, the face mask, all the things that we all scouting, plays on paper, practices, the way we practice. He invented all these things. So the Browns were basically a team from the future playing in the old style, rugby style football. So the head coach of the Eagles said, that team, they were throwing the ball over the place. They didn't play real man football. They wouldn't run the football. Now, keep in mind, they got Marion Motley, who today would probably be an offensive lineman the way he was built. He was just he was like the Derrick Henry of that era. Okay. So they're like, he just threw the ball over the field. They were tricking people. They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They didn't want to play real man football, which is, just cram guys into the line every time, and get yards.
3 yards and a cloud of dust.
Well, yeah, and that's why like players like Sid Luckman, who's the Bears quarterback, wore 42. Why Slinging Sammy Ball wore 33, because the quarterback was a back, like a running back. And I'm going somewhere with this, believe it or not. This
And
is not just a history.
Marion Motley wore number 76.
Yeah, and Otto Graham in that era wore 60. So the quarterback literally was a quarter yard back from the line of scrimmage. The halfback was a half yard back, and the fullback was a full yard back. That's where these names come from, So the quarterback basically sat, a step behind the offensive line where he would snap the ball kind of like a pitch style. You didn't go under center because that was all the T formation. That's a whole nother thing. But, and then he would hand the ball off to the halfback or the fullback, most of the time the fullback, because he would get the running start and then just pile right into the line and try and find a hole where he could run. So anyway, Otto Graham and the Browns demolished the Eagles. So they met again in the championship game that year. And to prove a point, Paul Brown refused to call a pass play the entire game. He ran the ball every play of that championship game to make a point. And the Browns won again. I think it was 9-3 or 9-0, because kicking was the important part of the game. That's why it was called football. The quarterback also kicked a lot of time, especially in the old single wing. And the reason why all this history is coming up now, let's fast forward to this past weekend. What did people expect with Taysom Hill playing? They expected the single wing. He was going to take one look, then tuck it and run. How would you grade Taysom Hill's production? Because clearly he did not do that. He showed he can be a modern NFL quarterback.
Yeah, to be honest, I was duly impressed. Taysom kept it simple. He didn't try to play outside of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was solid. He made good decisions. I would give him an A- to a B.
I tell you,
I would honestly, and I've been telling people this all week. It was great to get the win. It was great to see Taysom play well, all of that. But I mean, let's keep it in context. We're playing a team that sucks. Now, the defense stepped up and showed out. But yeah, I was duly impressed with Taysom's game.
What there were two things that I saw during the game that really impressed me. And I the first one was there was one play where there was a lot going on. The Falcons blitzed and the pocket collapsed and a hole opened up in front of Taysom. And he started to slide up into the pocket. And I thought for sure he was going to tuck it in and run because he had a lot of green grass in front, green turf in front of him. He could have run. But instead, he kept his eyes downfield and threw the ball to Michael Thomas.
I remember that.
That is a tremendous play for a guy who was basically treated or used like a single wing player, wildcat play, where he would just take the ball and run.
Okay, I was shocked, obviously, when they made. I think it was on Friday when they made the announcement. I really was shocked. I didn't see them using Taysom as a starter. Now that being said, the writing is on the wall. I mean, obviously, Sean Payton believes in the guy, and I think it was a good decision. But and I forgot where I was going with this. I really didn't envision him getting the start, but I think in hindsight, yeah, it was probably a good decision. My only thing, I wasn't against Taysom starting ever. It was just you're competing for the number one seed, and you're going to start somebody who has never started a game. But by the same token, that's what they say about people until they start a game.
Yeah.
Sooner, if you have that kind of belief in him and you play him up in the media the way that Peyton has, and talk about him possibly having the opportunity to be the future of this franchise, sooner or later, you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up because I was listening to a Rich Eisen podcast. We had Peter King on, and he said Peter King said, "Listen, I sat and talked with Drew Brees and Sean Payton about Drew Brees and the future and Taysom Hill and so forth." And Sean, like you said, has been saying since 2017. He believes that Taysom Hill is a starter in the NFL. He has a future as a starting quarterback. And they were talking about giving him a first-round tender and paying him the money he paid him and stuff. And he said, listen, he said, Peter, one of the things that I promised Taysom if he re-signed with us is I'm going to give you an opportunity. You're going to get, when the opportunity comes for you to be just a quarterback, not a gadget player, but just a quarterback, I'm going to give you that opportunity. And Adam Schefter and, they had the splash report that came out on Bleacher Report. And you heard some of the other stuff Monday after the game about multiple players and coaches were saying that maybe they should have started Jameis Winston instead of starting, Taysom Hill for the reasons you're talking about. Obviously, you're playing for the number one seed. Do you really want to put the guy who's never started a game at quarterback as your quarterback the first week? At this time of the game, this time of the season, all these things. Why not play a kid who's already started? He's familiar with this team. The Falcons are a great team to send somebody like this against because they're not a good defense. And King was saying that Sean was really conflicted all week. Now, I don't believe he was, but let's give King the benefit of the doubt. He was conflicted all week. Should he start Taysom Hill? And my response always was, if not now, when? When are you going to give this kid a chance? If the Falcons are bad enough that you're going to risk starting Jameis Winston there, who's only been with the team really in practice and taking reps and stuff for 3 months, why would you pick him over a guy who's been there for 3 years? And all the things we've been saying about Teddy Bridgewater and about Jameis Winston. Oh, it'd be great if he learns under Peyton and he can work under Breeze and learn how to limit his mistakes. Well, here's a kid that's been here. He's 30, but he's a kid. Here's a kid that's been here for 3 years. He's been doing all that. He's been learning under Peyton and learning under Breeze. Chad makes the point. He sounded exactly like Drew Brees out there. He was saying Blue 80. He was doing everything that Drew Brees. I was watching the warm-ups. He threw a warm-up pass, and then he does the shoulder shake look, his options in that play. Brees does it every week. Taysom did the same thing. So here's a kid that has been doing all the things you say is good for Bridgewater and for Winston. Why not start Hill and see what he does? And my feelings were that if he stinks or he's struggling, the offense can't get anything going, he's turning the ball over, then you can go to Winston. If you reverse it and you start Winston and he's turning the ball over, and the offense is struggling. You go to Hill, you bring in Taysom then. I mean, this way now that he's got to start, and you've seen this, how he's played, you're in a much, much better position. Because if Hill struggles against the Broncos on the road, or the Falcons again, or the Eagles, you can always go to Winston to bail him out. But I don't think the fans would have felt comfortable if it was reversed. And Winston was out there playing like he played for Tampa, where every time you throw the ball, he throws the ball, you're going, please throw it to my guy. Please throw it to my guy. You know, or he throws the pick six, and no matter how good the defense is playing, the other team's getting back into it because we're turning the ball over on offense. You know, that's, you don't want to, I don't want to live through that. I already lived through that once. That was the 1983 Saints. You know, I mean, that was Kenny Stabler and Dave Wilson stuff. You know, I don't want to go through that again. So that's how I looked at it, at least. At worst, you can do the 2-quarterback system. At best, we get to see what Taysom looks like. And I thought Taysom looked good from the standpoint of he looked accurate. He looked comfortable in the pocket. And he made good decisions with the ball for the most part. He's got to protect that ball, though, when he runs.
The only head scratcher that I had with Taysom in that entire ball game was that that one pass that had a better hang time than a Thomas Morstead punt.
Yeah.
He's, you know, Emmanuel Sanders should have fair caught it or something.
Exactly. You know, and I think he's going to learn from that.
But the good thing about it was the defensive back never had his eyes on the ball, so he overran the play.
Yeah.
And the trailing secondary player almost made the play that the guy covering him was up for.
Yeah. And Sanders needs to protect the football better, too, once he catches that ball, because we were very lucky. I mean,
yeah, that drive we were so lucky because there was a couple of times that drive could have ended.
Well, you know, I said from where I was sitting, now it was the opposite end zone for me, but they kept re-showing the play on the big screen in the dome. And I said, as I'm watching it, look, you can see the 7 in Sanders' jersey bend when his hand brushes his back. So he's down by contact. You can, because he's getting up as he catches the ball, and the 1 and the 7 are flat. And when he brushes his back, his hand goes from, I don't know if you can see this or not, up like this to this, and he brushes the top of the jersey, so the 7 kind of turns up as his hand passes over. So I'm like, okay, he's down by contact. Because if they would have kept that a fumble, they would have ruled it a fumble. They would have kept it a fumble after the challenge, after the review. That would have been really devastating for the Saints offense, because that led that was an important drive. I think that made it 17-9 at that point. And the other one, the touchdown one, they called it on Pete, and it wasn't on Pete. It was on McCoy. McCoy had the top of the jersey. Pete wasn't even on the field. Pete had gotten a concussion. He was out. They had Easton playing at that point. So his deep ball needs a little bit of work. I think he's trying to throw it high as opposed to a rope. Michael Thomas dropped that pass early in the game, which would have been a touchdown as well, because he threw that thing with so much fire. I think Thomas was like, man, leave my fingers next time. That was a Namath kind of pass. I mean, he saw Thomas open, and he gunned that ball to him, and Thomas was like, holy shit, that ball came through fast. So Yeah. I was really frustrated with that call. McCoy, he really didn't need to hold him either. But both times it looked like he was throwing that ball just to show you how far he could throw it, and he was throwing it all arc. I'm going to throw it straight up.
And for the record, I saw later that night that you can say what you want, but that was the longest pass completion by a Saints quarterback in the past 3 years.
Yeah. It reminded me of an old Jeff Blake pass. Jeff Blake, when you watch him on the highlights on ESPN on NFL Primetime, the ball would always disappear from the TV screen. It'd go up, disappear from the TV screen, then you see it come down to, Carl Pickens or, one of the receivers for the Bengals way back when. So that's what that pass reminded me of, the way he had to wait for it to come down. And we saw that in the Vikings game too. Same thing. He just threw it straight up. So I felt as he got more comfortable, he got better, both running the offense and making good throws, putting the right kind of touch on it, getting the ball out faster. But
you guys bear with me. The reason my screen keeps going weird, I'm having some issues here.
Okay. All right. Defensively, who would you say are your top defensive players on this team right now?
Okay. One that stood out to me again this week was Gardner Johnson, and also Quan Alexander.
Very good.
We had said last week that we wanted to see what he was going to do against a team that he wasn't as familiar with. And oh Jesus, come on, give me a break. We wanted to see what he was going to do against a team that he didn't just come from in the 49ers, and I think he showed up well against Falcons.
I do too. I assume Quan Alexander was, had a good game against the 49ers because he knew that offense. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot he had to learn because he knew what was coming. He just had to make sure you understood the calls and things that Demario Davis was doing. But we saw this week as well against the Falcons, they've got a chemistry going. They got something going on. Demario and Quan have a relationship. Now, Quan had gotten hurt in the game, I believe, later on because I saw Alex Anzalone in a lot. It wasn't anything serious, but I think something had happened, but you saw a lot more of Alex Anzalone in the game later on. But overall, I think both of those guys had a great game.
And you can take any one of the players that were involved in the 8 sacks. The defensive line as a unit was incredible.
Well, of course, Matt Ryan and the Falcons are the favorite team for Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan has sacked Matt Ryan for his career 21 times. That's an amazing number. 21 times. We have sacked Falcons quarterbacks, I think, 17 times over the past 2 meetings. I think we sacked them 9 times Thanksgiving night last year and 8 times today or Sunday. Yeah. So, somebody had called up the point after and said, man, if Cam Jordan just played the Falcons every week, he'd be the Saints all-time sack leader, and set a put that number up past Ricky Jackson when nobody could catch it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cam is special. I'll tell you the guy who has really, really impressed me. We signed him to an extension, and people, at the time were like, why are you paying him so much money? And like Alvin Kamara, like Michael Thomas, suddenly now he looks like it's a bargain. David Onyemata.
Absolutely.
Onyemata has this is his breakout season. This is the proverbial breakout games he's been having. It's not just this week, it's every week now.
Yeah.
You're seeing him so disruptive, getting so much push in the middle. It makes Hendrickson, who has 9.5 sacks, tie for the league lead, and Cam much more effective, because when you got just outside rushers, the quarterback can slide up in the pocket or he can get a hole and escape. But what we're seeing now is we're getting push up the front and around the edges, so they really have nowhere to go. The quarterback is sitting there and getting killed.
It's just like I heard a quote from Cam saying, "You can't double us all."
No.
And the ones that are getting that one-on-one with their opponents, they're getting to the point now where they're all stepping up and delivering.
Absolutely. And, Marcus Davenport was quiet as far as stats wise, but impact wise, they're all working together as a unit, and they're all making plays to help the other be successful. When we saw Matt Ryan go down, and about 4 of them were covered sacks, but when you saw Matt Ryan go down, it wasn't just one player. It was 2 or 3 players that are right there. Just Cam Jordan or David Onyemata or Demario Davis even got to him first. But it's players in a group coming around and making the plays. And that is the biggest difference I'm seeing now versus what we saw the first 4 weeks of the season.
Well, the only substantial pass play that they had was there in the first quarter, the one to Ridley. Mm-hmm. That's the only one that in my memory stood out enough to remember.
Absolutely. And really, Jack Rabbit was right there. He stumbled.
Yeah.
And that allowed Ridley to catch that pass. And Calvin, you're absolutely right. Davenport does make the whole line better, and the statistics prove it.
Sure.
You look at before he was in the lineup, you look at the pressures they were getting, and then you compare it to once Davenport was in there, they're like number 1 in the league.
Night and day difference.
Yeah. And with just 4 guys getting the pressure, suddenly those bootlegs aren't working anymore. The linebackers look better. The other player I would give a lot of credit, has really improved, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, since the Lions game. The Lions game, not the Lions and the Panthers game both were probably his 2 worst games. He was really struggling in those 2 games. They were making a lot of plays on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But since those 2 games, and really since the fight against the Bears, it wasn't much of a fight, but we got rid of that guy. But, since that game, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has just been an unbelievable player, whether it's blitzing off the edge, getting coverage. They're not drawing the penalties like they were before. You didn't even have Marshawn Lattimore out there. And you really didn't see a drop-off. Patrick Robinson was able to hold his own because we were getting the pressure, because we took away the run. We knew what they were going to do. So if you can rush 4 and drop everybody off in coverage and just maybe one rush a linebacker, that makes your secondary so much better. Mm-hmm. And I'm really impressed with how much he's grown or fit into the defense now since the beginning of the season. Is got to be Malcolm Jenkins. I kept wanting to say Janoris Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins. Malcolm Jenkins is now figuring out where he fits in on this defense. The communication's better. When he comes down, the rest of the defense knows what he's doing. So we're not seeing the blown coverages like we did in the first 4 or 5 games. And it just makes everything work so much better now.
It absolutely does.
And they're much more fun to watch. And now I'm watching games. I'm going, oh yeah, we can handle these guys. Like the Chiefs. If you'd asked me about the week of the Bears And the Panthers game, I would have told you, oh man, Mahomes going to carve us up like a Thanksgiving turkey, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But now, watching the Raiders last week, granted, divisional foe, they know each other extremely well. John Gruden used to be on Andy Reid's staff, so he knows how Andy Reid thinks. So, given that, I look at our defense and say, you know what, we're better than the Raiders in the secondary. We're better than the Raiders on the defensive line. We're better than the Raiders at linebacker. We can handle the Chiefs, provided we don't. We can control the clock offensively and make the Chiefs one-dimensional again. It's their best dimension. I'm not going to lie, but you know, if you can, with Drew Brees, I think they can be in a shootout with the Chiefs. But that's a much later. Let's worry about that team much later. But like I said, I don't look at that game anymore as, oh well, that's going to be a loss. You know, I look at that game and say, well, that's going to be a competitive game. We have a good shot of upsetting those guys. You know, and that's a big difference. Yeah, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with Hendrickson, because Hendrickson's the only one who's not under contract. He is playing his last year. He's a free agent next year. I don't know if they can pay him or not, because he's having a breakout year, but he fits in with what we do defensively. I think if someone overpays him, the Saints are going to let him go. But they're going to find out he's not a complete defensive end. But he works well in this team.
He does, because that defensive line room is very crowded and very talented.
Yeah. That's going to be tough, Calvin. The salary cap isn't going to go up as much as we would like it to, so that's going to be tough to franchise him. I want to keep him, because I think, exactly what I'm saying. He works well in a rotation, and he does. He works well with certain players around him. And meanwhile, guess who got put on IR last week?
Besides Breeze?
Yeah, besides Breeze. I'm talking about in the NFL.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I have no idea.
Jadeveon Clowney, you know, so here we were trying to figure out a way to get to, you know, Jadeveon Clowney in this team, including sending a number 2 pick to a second round pick to the Browns, for the Browns to sign him and trade him to us, because the Browns had salary cap room. And Clowney hasn't had a sack yet this season. He hasn't played much, if at all, for the Titans. And now he's on IR. So we really lucked out. We still have our number 2 pick. We got a better player in what we already had on the field with Hendrickson.
Yeah.
It's one of those moves like, thank God we didn't
dodge that bullet.
Yeah. It's just like
it's the same thing with Malcolm Butler.
Yep. I was just going to say Malcolm Butler, Josh Norman. You know, you can go down the list. There are players that the Saints really, really wanted, and we lucked out and couldn't get them.
Well, I mean, again, and I have to tell people this, and they get mad when I say it, but looking at it from that standpoint, it almost seems like maybe Sean Payton is smarter than what the fans give him credit for, and Mickey Loomis. And they know more about this than they are paid to know more about this and these guys and this process than we do. It's easy to find fault when you don't have all the information.
Well, I said this the other day in a chat room, basically, that there are some fans who, and I notice they're really quiet right now because we're 8-2. there's some fans who kind of enjoy the Saints being a team that's struggling with a lot of holes in it because they really get off on the draft, free agency. They want to see the Saints make a lot of moves. And when you have a team that we've drafted well, and we really don't have that many holes to fill, and what holes they do have, it's a lot of unknown talent. Like, okay, Deontay Harris last year, kick returner, wide receiver, makes the Pro Bowl, undrafted free agent. Nobody expected that in August of 2019. This year, Callaway, Marquez Callaway, undrafted free agent, no training camp, nothing to see. And he gets his first start, our first real appearance where he starts catching balls, in the Carolina game.
Yeah.
And then he gets hurt, comes back against the 49ers, makes two of the big special teams plays by recovering muff punts. Harris gets hurt with a stinger against the Falcons. He can't return punts anymore or kickoffs. And Callaway's out there returning punts, returning kickoffs, doing very well. Yeah. So, I think for fans that are into the draft and free agents and getting name players like a Clowney and people like that, they don't enjoy that because it's like, yeah, you lucked out, you got a Pro Bowl kick returner, or yeah, you lucked out, you got this undrafted free agent, but that's really not what that you need to have name players. Those guys you really can't count on. That's gambling. You gotta draft, this guy because he was rated real high in the draft book, and you gotta sign this free agent because he's the best player on that team. And we really need a star running back, and we really need a star wide receiver, and we really need to get this great offensive guard, because Pete sucks, and it's the same crap over and over and over again. And it's like what you're saying.
With all this unqualified talent, all we do is go 13-3.
Exactly. And Chad's bringing up another one. We trade. Granted, the 49ers they're looking to dump his salary. They've got 3 linebackers that they like better than Quan Alexander. Alexander was hurt a lot for them, and he probably didn't really fit their scheme. I'm not saying that Alexander is another Demario Davis, but he looks good with us so far.
Well, like you said, they're developing a really good chemistry together. Yeah. And what a lot of people fail to realize is the success of a player, talent is only part of it. Mm-hmm. Location. Just because a guy doesn't work in this team's building doesn't mean that he can't come here and be successful, and vice versa. Just because we have a player that isn't doing that well, like the defensive lineman playing for Chicago, Akeem Hicks.
Yeah.
He didn't do well here. Change of scenery made all the difference in the world.
Exactly. And, that's where I was going with this, too. Alexander, fits in with this team because he fits in what we play on this defense. The 49ers play 3 linebackers most of the time. And their linebackers really drop off in a lot of coverage and do a lot of things differently than what we do with our linebackers. And Quan seems to, as long as he stays healthy, seems to be fitting in what we're asking him to do. And with Demario Davis, he's helping Demario Davis make more plays because he's able to move around in space and perform the traditional middle linebacker position to free up Demario to make his moves, because we rarely play 3 linebackers. We mostly play 2 linebackers, an extra safety, usually Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, playing as either a big nickel or as the third corner. Just we like having guys who have that flexibility just because that's Dennis Allen's scheme. So yeah, you've got to. This goes back to Taysom. Even you have to trust the coaches and the scouts who look at these players every day, both in practice and on game day, instead of what we see game day and highlights. So, it's just it's that's why I kind of chuckle when I see these guys bitch about these things, because these coaches are seeing things that we don't see. We're not allowed to see. We're not in there looking at them grade the film or break down the film on the player. It's like Jim Morris says, you think you know, but you really don't know, and you never will. You don't look at the film. You don't do all the things. And Jim Moore is dead on right.
Well, like I said, those guys are paid to make these decisions and to know those things and to know these players. And I tell people all the time, I love my team. I follow my team with all of my heart and with all of my soul. But at the end of the day, when the game's over, the game's over. I don't get paid any differently if the Saints win or if they lose. So me getting all invested in starting a movement to try to get this coach fired or get this player, that's none of my business. That's not my job.
Well, as a fan, you pay money, you're watching the team. If you are a Jets fan, or if you're
God help me.
Yeah, I know. Or a Browns fan or a Bengals fan, you get frustrated because it's been so long since you won. I get that. And hey, I was like that with Mike Ditka. You get that.
Yeah.
The end of the Jim Moore era, the end of the Hazlitt era, you're tired of coming close. You're tired of losing, all those things. But at the same time, this is a coach and a front office, like you said, that has won more games in the past 3.5 years than the Saints have won in the past 3.5 years at any point of this franchise's existence. They've taken us to more playoff games. They've won more divisional titles than any coach. Any coach in this franchise's existence.
Absolutely.
You were seeing more success out of the 2017 to 2020 Saints than you've ever seen, including the 2009 or 2011 era, because in 2012 we went 7-9. In 2008 we were 8-8, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were 7-9. We might have, we were 7-9 in 2007, 8-8 in 2008. So we're seeing a lot more success. If we win the divisional title, that makes it 4 years in a row, first time in the history of this franchise, that we've won four divisional titles. First time in NFC South history we will have won a team in the NFC South since 2002, when this division was formed, that a team has won 4 division titles. Is somebody in there?
The owner.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think I'm fixing to have to cut this short.
I got you. All right. So anyway, yeah, that's my overall point, is that we're seeing a lot of success. How much ridicule do you think Drew would get if he didn't shake the opposing team's quarterback hand after losing not once this year but twice? Surely you know who I'm referring to. Yeah, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's frustrated because Tom Brady came to the Bucs with the idea they were ready to go. They were just a quarterback away from getting back to the playoffs and possibly competing for a Super Bowl, and they're not doing it. They've got an all-star team. Going back to what we were just talking about, building your team as an all-star team, they're not doing it. So it's frustrating for him, and he is showing that frustration by not shaking these quarterbacks' hands. I know you got to go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Real quick, your prediction this Sunday for Denver Saints.
It's hard to say. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for Taysom having to go west. But I expect them to stay focused and stay driven. Like we said at the top of the show, you got a team that's in first place. All the chips fell where they fell, and we're leading the pack for that home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Absolutely. A defense and a running game travels well on the road. I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I know a cold front's supposed to hit here Monday, so chances are that cold front's already gone through Denver. So it may be cold. We may deal with snow. I haven't looked that far ahead, but a running game and defense always travel well. Both of those things are really strong. Taysom is the kind of quarterback who can run that single wing. I think they take care of business. I don't think Denver's got a very good defense for the kind of team that the Saints have. And I certainly think the Saints can take away Gordon and put pressure on Drew Lock. So I think the Saints win this game pretty convincingly. I see 27-16 Saints. I'm thinking more like 31-10 Saints.
Sounds good to me.
We'll see how this plays out. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving.